No. Hello, my darling. Hello, my rectangle. Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my rectangle. Whoa, whoa. All right. Let's get this bad boy hooked up. Hey, hi guys. 11:11. I'll wait. Come see the monkey dance. So this is going to be the fourth installation. And I guess I'm a little less nervous about this live streaming after 4. I have 50 people watching on the YouTube channel. If you're on Instagram and it cuts out, the Wi-Fi is a little bit spotty, or Instagram cuts me off, I think at 40 minutes. You can go to the Atelier Artista YouTube. It's also in widescreen format, which I like a little bit more of this vertical. But hey, whatever's close and easy. It'll be about an hour of instruction on the board. Draw along if you like. You will be crammed full of information. What I'm showing today is the 4th semester of a condensed version of my entire 4th semester of what I teach at the Atelier. All about muscles today. But of course, we can't get through all 650 plus of them. But it should be interesting. Maybe even if you learn one free thing today, I think it's worth joining me. So I'm just going to hit my YouTube stream starts at 11:11 in a couple minutes. I'm just going to come around and talk to you guys. Hey. Oh my God. So hard to wave. Okay. I decided that I would teach what I know for free, just to share. This is a tough times for people, and I can't have anyone in the studio. I'm drinking up my savings in order to keep the studio open. So I figured, since I'm paying for this anyways, I might as well give it back to you guys. Who knows if I figured September we might reopen. This stuff that I'm teaching today wouldn't be taught again until January or February. So by doing this live stream, I'm hoping to leave a little bit of a legacy. You can see what we're about. Enjoy the blackboards from 1912. I like the whole aesthetic here at C-Space. We have a mix of the new with the solar panels and all environmentally friendly. But what really drew me to opening here, other than my north-facing windows, which you probably see reflected in my glasses, north-facing is preferable for painters because the light stays constant throughout. So the north-facing light, location, expensive, very expensive here, but there's 130 free spots. I got the highest point on the hill, overlooking the city, though I rarely actually look out the windows. I notice when I'm teaching and the weather shifts and it just turns into a blizzard, but it was really these slate blackboards. That idea of like the studio that I'm in, like Hogwarts. I wanted to build everything out of solid oak. So to match what's going on here, but the donkeys which I designed that are foldable, which I folded once, that was ridiculous and too expensive, but live and learn. Those are solid oak, and they're meant to match the space. But I like the wood and old-timiness because to me, when I was in Europe, many times studying at different places in Portugal, Belas Artes, Italy, I went to the Paris Academy of Art, obviously in Paris, but actually outside of Paris. All of these places had that feeling that the ateliers that inspired me from the late 1800s had. And so I wanted to have that in Calgary. You know, be different than the very new and contemporary things we have in Calgary. We have hardly any buildings that don't get smashed down that are old. So for C-Space to take a sandstone building from 1912, it's pretty cool that I can open up a school with the ideas from them. I also made a rule, which was no IKEA furniture, but 2 benches snuck in that Tyler Longmire donated to me. And you know what? They've been incredibly useful. But other than that, nothing in here is allowed to be IKEA. So I have tons of state-of-the-art stuff, but you don't have to buy the cheap stuff. I even have my desk was refurbished. It was from Crescent Heights High School, where my step-grandma, Rose, she was the principal's assistant, and they were the old drafting table. So I took this old table out. No one's using it anymore. It has like a flip-up lid. I sanded it down, repainted it gold, and then retopped the whole thing. So it came from a school much like this one, but it's being repurposed. Holy smokes, it's 11:11. Thank you for joining me. Hi, Heidi. Yes, Heidi, you will have enough time to sharpen some pencils and make coffee. So the first part of this, I just want to go over what we've been doing in prior weeks quickly. It's very good to know where we're coming from and what we're doing. So I'll just quickly do that on the board while some of you get coffee and get yourself ready. I will show you guys some books that I'm using for reference, including the one that I'm working on. I am working on a book for the school. It'll probably take me another 2 years. Look how fat it is. But eventually I want a manual that every student can have, drawing, painting, you know, everything I know. So I've been slowly working towards that. So let's just get to it. I'm glad you joined me. I'm glad you're coming to learn the things that inspire me. It might seem really techy. I'm a Virgo and I like to pounce the information down. Some people are umbrella learners, and so they like all the information in the beginning. So we'll start with notes on the board. And then halfway through, I'm going to move the cameras, transition out, and go to the drawing board and work over there. I have a new setup this week, so the angle, you won't be getting my head or my shoulder in the way. Hopefully that will help you guys out. What we did was we started with, when drawing the person, let's break down the system and understand proportions. So we start with gesture, which I didn't really cover in this. It's something that I think you need to go to a lot of sessions and practice doing lots of short poses. There are resources online like New Masters Academy and Croquis Cafe. I think they're on Vimeo because I think YouTube blocks them. I, of course, have my regular Tuesday night here that Luke Church times and mans, but we're not running right now, so I'm not doing any short pose. But we've got gesture and proportions. So that first thing is like, how do we draw that person? And I led us into understanding structures, which is kind of like a skeletal system, but of basic forms and shapes. In the second section, which would be my second semester, so that would usually run end of October, November, December, we worked on mannequinization. So drawing the big, here, it is here. Drawing and understanding how light follows on the big shapes and forms. So the first session, we get this kind of drawing. Now we spent a good 2-hour class about, but each one of these drawings, when you come into a figure drawing session, will be your lay-in for the first 20 minutes. So they're longer than short pose, but they're still pretty short. Then I laid this over top, and we talked about the big basic shapes and forms and how light falls upon them. So that's step 2 in your learning. And any one of these, as you're going through, any one of these are where you need to be looking for where you need to improve. Because you're self-learning at home, I'm just showing you the yellow brick road, the path to get to Oz. And you're going to have to work on these things yourself to get better. You can't just sit, watch, and listen, and it's not all going to sink. Art is something you have to do. And I guess unless you're a contemporary artist at one of those universities that will remain unnamed. Okay, so the third stage was and what we did last week was talking about the skeleton. And the skeleton gave us our landmarks. We also focused on cranial masses. So another unit of measurement. In the gesture section, we were using the head, a big, simple measurement. Then we did cranial. So we'll call this skeletal. It's also structural, but we have a way of breaking things down. We broke apart the lengths and distances of all the bones. The bones are not things that contract or expand. Today, we're going to talk about muscles. Next week, we're going to move into something a little bit more conceptual. And these sculptures by John Osoro, they're available online. Planes of the Body, I believe. Planesofthehead.com. We're going to use a conceptual framework to understand planes so that we can further study light and shadow. And then finally, so we'll call that planes. In the 6th session, we will just be drawing and combining it all what we see and learning how to shade and render the forms with cross-hatching to make it look realistic. So we'll call this how to make a drawing look a certain way, how to lead the eye, how to use hard and soft edges. And that even relates kind of to mannequinization. I mean, all these pieces fit together, and you can do them in different orders, but you need to know where you need to study and improve. That being said, let's get into the muscles today. I'm going to move these guys out of the way, because I'm going to need this whole board. And if you're on YouTube, which many of you are, I'm playing to that camera. Sorry, Instagrammers. I wish it all could just go through one. So you've decided, oh yeah, YouTube, I'm going to zoom you in. Whoop. Okay. So you've decided to study the muscles now. You're going to need reference. There are 270 bones. People argue about these numbers all the time, so I don't want to get into that. There's 206 when we die. And that's because the bones in the skull and other bones, as we age, they start to fuse together. Okay? There are 650 muscles. Some people say up to 840. And that's because we're talking about skeletal muscles or breaking down the systems of muscles into more complex forms. So let's say 650. So if you were in the last one, I asked you to memorize like 30 landmarks. That's where the bone is surfacing, like the process of the ulna, the acromion process. You don't have to learn all the muscles names. You don't have to learn all the bone names. We're going to group them together into shapes and forms, similar to mannequinization. There's a lot to cover, and we've got 2 hours, so we're going to group the muscles into their largest masses. I'm going to start with the front of the torso, then the back, and then we'll move down to the limbs. Want to talk about some of the books you can use? Once again, the Be It End All. The book that I was told to use when I was in art school, Artistic Anatomy. It's like 25 bucks. I think on some of my previous videos I may have put a link to Amazon, and eventually I'll put it on my website so you guys can just click through and maybe give me an affiliate or associate. But it has these beautiful charts. These are the types of references you want. That being said, internet, free stuff too. I like having books. I have a little bit of a book addiction. Here is a book I found for like $2 at used bookstore. Used bookstores, just get whatever, get Grey's Anatomy. This Vesalius book is awesome because he does the style of écorché. So that's like flayed woodcuts humans. It's not entirely accurate. At the time, people were still treating anatomy like philosophy, but then they started actually cutting into the bodies because the church would allow them. I got these little numbers on Amazon. I'm sure they come from China, so you won't be getting them in a week like I did, but they have a skin side and an écorché side, so you can have a physical representation of the muscles on your desktop. If not, that's why art schools like mine exist. I buy the cool stuff and keep it around the room, and you can borrow it. Okay, so most artists will agree that learning the names of every muscle is far less important than knowing what to look for where they are, what they do. So let's break down the definitions, the types of words you're going to see in the books, the types of ways we break them down. Well, what is a muscle, right? A muscle is a bundle of fibers that end in tendons. And there's no direct beginning or end where the muscles kind of transform to tendons. And some people have long tendons, and some people have short tendons. The reason I bring that up is if you're drawing certain muscle types, you don't want to have a short tendon muscles on the top, so big and bulgy like a weightlifter, and then long and slender on the bottom. You want to keep the tendon type to the biology of the person you're drawing. And that's not male or female. It really is genetic on who has the short or long. And it makes your muscles look smooth and long or short and boxy. Right? So both people could have different genetics, do the same working out, and they would look completely different. But their top and the bottom should look the same. It's all the same attachment material. So for some of my examples, I'll use tape. So muscle to tendon, and then there's ligaments. Ligaments are in between bone to bone, same kind of material. Fascia is the same idea, but it's between two muscles. So these are all the ways things are attaching. And then we also have my favorite thing, Aqua Neurosis. Aqua Neurosis is thin, like the diamond on our back. It's like a thin membrane that you can still see the muscles too, but everything's connected and kind of attached and woven together, of course. But we're treating it as something that we dissect. Okay? So what do muscles do? Well, they only do one thing. They contract. And so every muscle has an opposite muscle. So they work in pairs. The bicep is pulled, the tricep is stretched. So when you're drawing and you have, using curved and straight lines, you will have something contracting, something expanding. Squash and stretch in animation. Contraction and expansion. It's very important to keep this in mind. You can't have both the tricep flexed and the bicep flexed. So a lot of people, they start to learn the muscles and they start to flex both out, and they end up looking like a G.I. Joe that got a bike pump stuck up its butt and like pumped up. So be aware of which muscles are being activated and used in your drawing and which are not. This, going forward, will help you when you're doing like comic book drawings and stuff like that. Although they kind of flex everything to make superheroes look more massive. There's also some basic terms that we're going to have to talk about in placement and where their names are. First, we have the muscle name. Those are going to be Latin. Bicep femoris is the two-headed bicep femoris of the leg, femur. Okay. We also have a quantity of muscles: bicep, triceps, 3, quadriceps, 4. We also have brevis, short, longest, long in the arms and legs. Lat, it means wide. Oblique means diagonal. Rect or rectus, not what you think, means straight. Okay? The origin of the muscle. So that's where the muscle begins, and it tends to be that the muscles begin opposite the action. So one of the origin places, it's the skeleton, and it's more stationary. So let's use the chest or the pec muscle as an example. The origin would be along the sternum here. And what the pec is doing is its origin is here, and its insertion is in the arm, actually. It's not around the ribs like a lot of people think, so let me just get a piece of tape. It goes from the chest. Come on, Fred. Come on out front. So the fan shape of our bicep will go from here up to here. And there's a little ridge in this bone here that it attaches to with its proteins. Right? So it's going from here to here, this way. So what it's doing, the origin, being that it's coming from the sternum, the insertion to the arm is it's pulling it forward. Forward. So you even feel that, and you can feel the muscle flex. So by knowing its origin and insertion, we can kind of determine what it's doing if the name doesn't tell us. The function is another thing. The movement or contraction that it's responsible for, right? We can know that it's pulling the arm towards us. So that same thing, the bicep here, it's attached up in the arm, and then down here is the insertion pulling towards myself, okay? Then we need to know its antagonist. The tricep making the arm go straight, stretching the bicep back out. And then to a lesser degree, it tends to not be in the name all the time, but it's the form, the three-dimensional shape of the muscles. Today we're going to talk about the quadriceps, which I'm going to explain are like a big teardrop shape when we combine all the things together. But each muscle, the side muscle of the leg, is like a seed or a football shape. This one is more like a teardrop. So we can use these types of ideas to understand the form of the muscles. So let's talk about the types of muscles. And that's what I've illustrated in my book. We'll do them on the board. So if you are following along, please make notes. It's more fun that way. So, 5 types first of parallel or longitudinal muscles. Parallel. I'm going to do this in white, I think, even though hopefully you can see the red. I want the muscles to be red. Parallel muscles. That means that the muscle fibers go along the distance that the muscle is working against. And here's something that's really interesting. Wrinkles go cross-contour to the direction of the muscle fibers. So the muscle fiber direction gives us, and the muscle groupings gives us striations. So those are lines going the direction. But wrinkles, which is the skin folding, go across the muscle. So my forehead, for example, my forehead, the muscles are attached to the brow, to the skull, and they pull this direction. And so when I pull the muscle, it makes the skin fold horizontally. With the mouth, which is a circular muscle, a sphincter type muscle, people start to get the lines in diagonals to go across the direction of the muscle form. Okay? So these are important because we want to know what direction we're drawing these muscles in. Okay? So the first muscle, and the long muscle in our body, goes from our ASIS, the top of our pelvis, down our leg, and that is a strap muscle called the Sartorius muscle. So I'm going to draw a strap. So that's the tendon. You guys can see that. Nice long fibers going this way. Strap. Strap muscles. So strap muscles tend to lie quite flat. Muscles are going to bulge out where the muscle fiber can be built up, which is only here, not in the tendon material. Number 2, sheet muscles. Sheet muscles are very similar to strap, but much, much, much shorter, and they're like a sheet of muscle. So the rhombus muscle, which goes back to the name of the form. It's a rhomboid shape. It's between the spine and the scapula, and it goes at a diagonal like this. Hope you guys can see that. And it pulls the shoulders back together. The other thing you can think about is Rectus Abdominus, which is a sheet muscle going from the front of our pelvis up to our ribs, and it's what gives us our six-pack. So it kind of looks like this. So the part that builds up into the six-pack muscle is the muscle fiber, and then what we perceive as lines are the areas of tenuous material that's connecting the sheets together. The most common muscle when we think of muscles is the fusiform. The fusiform is the one that has the nice big belly, right? Like the biceps, that's what we think of the muscles. Building up, gets fat, and then comes down to tendon. Strap, sheet, fusiform. We also have triangular or fan-shaped muscles. So I think they also call them convergent in some textbooks. Convergent muscles are muscle fibers that they're fanning out. The pectoral is a good example of that. We have the area of attachment, the sternum, and then they fan out. So wider at the insertion, tighter at the origin. Fan shape or triangular. The fifth of the longitudinal muscles I have mentioned already is the sphincter type muscle or the circular muscle. That's when all the fibers are going around and around and around and around and around. Around our mouth, around our eyes, butthole, we got some inside of our body that close the esophagus. Circular. See, in a normal classroom situation, people can see the board, so I'm going to step out of the way. I want you guys to draw and take note of these muscle types. There are 3 others, though. So I'm just going to quickly erase this. Screenshot it if you have to. The other 3 types, so parallel, right? These ones are a little strange. This next muscle group is called pennate. I looked up the word pennate. I'm like, why the heck are they called pennate? And in Latin, pennate means feather. So they're feather-like in shape. So they run at a diagonal to the tendon, the muscle fibers at least. So the first one is una penne, and it looks like half of a feather. So the fibers are running down and attaching at a diagonal. We have a muscle inside the side of our leg here, the one that's always cramping up. That's una penne. That's called the Extensor Digitorum. Its name tells you it extends out the digits of the foot here, or in the arm. They're all like clumped inside there. Then we have, so that's una penne, or uni penne. The next is our bipenne. So bipenne really looks like a feather. So I'll just draw it looking like a feather. The muscle fibers are coming in at a diagonal. Now, because the muscle fibers are at a diagonal, they're more clumped together. There's more of them. These are actually incredible. They have a limited range, but they're quite strong because they've packed in those muscle fibers. The issue with these muscles on our body is they're in all the places that they tire quickly. The rectus femoris, that really big muscle on top of our quad, the one that kind of gives you that angle shape on the top, you can pump it up really big, but it's one of the ones that tires when you're running quickly. The unipennate on the side tires, and then our next one, the multipennate, the deltoids, tire quickly. So they're incredibly strong for the compact size that they have, but they can't do long-term work. Unipennate, bipennate, and our final one, multipennate. And I've already mentioned a good example of a multipennate, and that is our deltoid. So it kind of looks like a complex interweaving. The muscle fibers zig and zag together and kind of intermesh. And so when we're drawing our, let me see how close I can get this, and it's still focused. Focus, focus. It's not going to do it. The deltoid, that's why we see those striations in there. So look at reference and you'll see exactly what I mean. So let's just go over some of the technical terms so that when I'm talking about them, or if I'm naming muscles, hopefully you guys work out and know some of the names of these, or worse, you've injured some of these. It tends to be that people only know about the things that they need to know. So hopefully this will add to your knowledge so that when you're looking at a model, you can do a better job depicting them. So some of the names. Posterior is your back. So some of the names will have that in it, knowing that it's to the back of the body. Whoa, stuff's falling off the walls. Anterior is the front. Medial is the middle. So sometimes the grouping of names, like in the quadriceps, one of the muscles will be called the medial muscle. Lateral, that's the outside of the body, like away from the heart. So lateral medialis would be the outside ankle, and then superior is up of the body, inferior is below. We have terms like flexion and extension. So a lot of these things in order to describe things I'll be using. Okay, so at least we're on the same language. So draw these ones down, quick, or screenshot the pennants. Then I'm going to erase the board, and we're going to start drawing these muscles. If I had a feather, I would use that as a visual aid. However, I do not. These look great on the Instagram. Let's see how they look on YouTube. Not bad, not bad. Okay. This is the time people can ask questions as well. While I erase the board. So I'm going to start with the front and back torso, and I'm going to put the muscle groups together in a simplified manner for you. You don't have to memorize it, but it does help to know where these things go. And we'll go top down here. So I'll start here. Just with some structure of a skull, spine, some hips, let's say. Okay. So at the back of the neck, we have this very, very odd shaped muscle, the trapezius. It goes in two columns on either side, and where the seventh cervical vertebrae is, there's an Aqua Neurosis, diamond shape, so we can see the spine. It is, I don't know, I think sometimes like it's like some sort of undersea creature. It comes down the back, so its overall shape is a diamond, but it's got a few areas where it's fatter. So you're going to want to see where the shadow falls on that and where it is in its state of flexion. Get out of the way. We don't need you right now. It goes to the acromion process. It attaches down to the top of the bone right there. Oh yeah, this is the back. Let's just look at the front too. It does wrap around, so it's not like I can explain them all exactly, but let's go here. Belly button. Okay. So it's coming around, attaching the shoulder. It's what brings your shoulders up to shrug. The shoulder, the acromion process, has a muscle coming out that covers the humerus. So I'll just draw a stick arm right now. And that is the deltoid. And it comes up and over, kind of like a reverse teardrop. And it's a big grouping. As we go down the back, we have underneath the trap, the rhomboid, attaching to the scapula. There are some crazy little muscles in here. Teres major and minor, and they go across, and you sometimes see divots. Now on the John Asaro, we see divots here. There's our traps. That is the teres major and teres minor, and then underneath that, the lats. The lats are a diamond shape. They're going down to the sacrum and coming up and wrapping around this direction. Every muscle, because it has an antagonist, if they're going that direction, underneath it are muscles that go the opposite direction so that you can twist the body, you can scrunch in, and so just underneath and to the other side are the obliques. The obliques are more frontal than the lat. The lat is running this V this way, and the obliques are running this way. And we'll see them more on the front. There's a large diamond, the Aqua Neurosis here, a large diamond of tenuous material so we can see the spine often. And up the sides of the spine are two columns that we often see going from the top of the sacrum up, and that is your erector spinae. Listen to the name. Erector spina. Erect, pulling the back up. Spina, of the spine. That is the antagonist to